Sharia Advisor, perhaps 30 years ago, 40 years ago, was not a professional service. It was not heard of, to be honest, and Sharia Advisor was not needed because there was no regulated financial sector as far as Islamic banking and finance is concerned. But the moment Islamic banking and finance became an industry and everyone should be regulated, and the risk was so huge and still huge, and we need to have some regulation and governance for each and every player in the sector. What motivated me to become a Sharia advisor? Okay, perhaps I have to say I was not motivated to become a Sharia advisor. I was asked by someone, because my area is Islamic legal theory. I wrote a lot on Islamic jurisprudence, but somehow I got a call. We need someone to join the Sharia committee. I said, well, I have no knowledge. I will give a try. I joined the Sharia committee for the first time. You know what I realized? I said, this is the only way, this is the only platform I can put my Sharia knowledge into practice. And that has changed my perspective 360 degrees. Because whatever we have learned about by then, 20 years ago, throughout my study, I don't think for one moment I can put the theory into practice. When I went to that meeting for the first time, I can see how murabaha and ijara, mubaraba were living and kicking. How could we put the contract into the modern financial products? And that motivated me from day one that I need to be a more realist. In Islam, in your career, diversity is equity. We have to have diversified portfolio, gender-wise, male and female, races, Malay, Chinese, Indian, Muslim, non-Muslim, high, senior, junior. This is a good diversity. Diversity is always a plus point. How did I go through the whole process of swimming against the tide, the current? It's not that easy, but you know what? If you are put in that situation, you had no choice but to work harder to establish that you have something that they don't have. If you are junior in your own respective practice, it's a good point for you. You have to show that you know more, you read more, you can think better, you can work faster, you can work smarter, and for you to not to say outperform, but for you to be on equal footing with your senior and super senior, partner and whatnot. And this is a good process. Take it positively. Don't take it negatively. In fact, this is Malaysian experience. When I went to overseas, I was invited to join the first ever Sharia board beyond Malaysian show was in 1998 in South Africa, a fund set up in Cape Town. Then I had the opportunity to join Daud Islamic Market Index in 1999, and after that I was invited to join the highest Sharia board of the world in IOF under in Bahrain, the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. It was a good promotion for me to become to be upscaled to that level. But the same thing in Malaysia, I mentioned my book again. I was not welcomed by the senior scholars. Perhaps our culture, I don't know. We tend not to welcome the youngsters in the community. But over there, I was surrounded by great scholars, those who are, elder to me and perhaps 20 years kind of age gap, but they welcome me. The moment I raised the hand, yes, Dr. Daud, what is your opinion? Though I was speaking not in perfect Arabic then, they try to understand what I'm trying to convey the message. And you become very encouraged, very motivated. In Malaysia, I don't react to that attitude, though in one of the days I was so down, I decided to resign from one big post in Malaysia, but someone called me up. I said, well, Dr. Daud, you cannot do that because you are the future of the industry. If you cannot take the challenges and brave the storm, you're going to fail from today. The moment you have failed, you are a failure forever. That word really made me motivated. Then I got to be a bit positive. And from that moment, whatever issues outstanding at that meeting, at that level, I volunteered. They cannot resolve. One meeting cannot resolve. The second meeting we cannot resolve because lack of research, lack of data. So let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. After a series of intervention, voluntary intervention, people started giving their respect. Respect is earned, is that right? So I'm getting the respect now from a young scholar sitting toward the end of the round table. I was a bit upgraded, and for any complicated issue, everyone was quiet, and they would look at me. Well, what do you think? And this is the time for me to come back as the, as the champion. So in this case, my view is the following: 1, 2, 3, and by having that training and process, you become more refined. You know how to articulate better because you are talking to the elders, and you have to convince them before you can convince yourself. So I was trained by default to really put the argument politely, subtly, but very, very profoundly to convince the other great scholars before me. Even in the Middle East, 5 scholars, they are elder to you, 70 years old, 50 years old. I was then 35 years old or 37 at most, less below 40. And when we had the discussion meeting, the problem that happened, the chairman would say, well, in my point of view, this is, and the second senior, or the most senior after the chairman, and so on and so forth. I was left at the end because I was the youngest, and perhaps I'm not an Arab, I'm non-Arab, Malaysian scholar. You talk later, you talk less. And you have to talk because for you to become an effective member of any meeting, organization, you have to be seen as contributing ideas, perspective. You cannot say, I would agree, I would disagree. You can say that in the first meeting, but in the second meeting, you cannot be going to the meeting, yes, I agree, or I don't agree. People will put certain remarks internally that you are not a good member of the meeting. So give me the challenge. Yeah, first meeting, say, well, I would agree, yes, with that view, that view. Second meeting, I got to say something. And I need to say something which is not repetitive. Okay? If you want to say something which is repetitive, which has been said by other scholars before you, you're not adding the value, is that right? So I was forced to think hard enough. And that was a very indirect training for me because I was trained to think differently and to think hard enough, if you like, to give another perspective. And I think I was so lucky because I was put in that condition, because I'm now known in the Middle East until today as someone who can see through the issues. Some people can give the answer without seeing through the problem and the issues. For me, I was able to see that, and I was able to disagree. I was able to offer a new perspective altogether. If I were, doing my job in complacent manner, I would not thought that I had been trained to think differently and to think critically in all issues. I give some. The biggest mistake, I thought that Sharia has nothing to do with accounting, with risk, with hedging, with legal practices, with accounting, taxation, and what have you. It took me about 1 year to appreciate that Sharia cannot operate in silo. The silo mindset is not part of the Sharia. So I started to re-engineer my thinking process. Sharia or Sharia Advisor and Sharia knowledge should be able to interact with each and every word used in the financial statement. You have to pick up and make sure that you understand what the financial report is telling you, legal documentation is saying to you, the prospectus, the disclosure, the statement, everything. You cannot take it for granted. A good Sharia Advisor is someone who is able to go through the whole submission, financial report be it, prospectus be it, legal doc be it, and also to give the comment. We think some of them would have thought that the Sharia rule is to give the fatwa, it is either halal or haram, and that's it, and not to provide solution when the products are deemed to be not halal. And this is the biggest mistake, the widespread mistake among some, if not many, of the scholars. Again, to say haram is easy, very easy. In fact, I have seen some debate on TV. Someone was asking the great scholar next to him, what do you think about this blah blah blah? Without listening to the full answer, the full question, he started giving the answer already. I mean, this is not acceptable, without understanding the real issue. So, giving the statement of non-permissibility is easy. You have to say that. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to say okay in the case of it's not okay. When it is not okay, say it. You have the duty to say this is not okay from your perspective, but don't stop at that juncture. However, I do have some suggestions. How could we become a better and more effective Sharia Advisor, Islamic accountant, Islamic auditor, Islamic professional, and whatnot? The easiest answer would be, you cannot stop, learning. You have to be a perpetual learner. If you were to stop halfway through, you won't be a good and effective anyone or anybody for that matter, a lawyer, an accountant, and Sharia Advisor. So in my case, I continued my learning. You spend few hours over here. I spent 3 hours just now listening to the great ideas of the capital industry. I spent few hours and few days in my internship in the blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum. I spent hours with the founders, with the miners, try to understand the underworld. So you have to be a perpetual learner. Don't stop even for one day. Read, ask people around, and I'm confident that you are still young. If you can be a perpetual learner, take everything, read everything, think of everything, and you could be a better and more visible, transparent professional in your respective area.